Hey, everybody, welcome to the OT Unleashed podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm Eric, your host, Eric Johnson, and I am thrilled to have two presidents of AOTA, Alyson Stover and Karen Jacobs. Thank you guys so much for being on today.
Thanks for having us, Eric. And I'm the former president, only one at a
Sure.
time.
Sure. Allison, our current president, in her last year. But I'm so excited to have you both on. Well, we're going to talk a lot today about some really fun and different things, unique things, that is really up and coming. I know that we're going to really kind of dive into some artificial intelligence, some things that are kind of shaping academia, shaping industry, shaping the world, really. And I'm excited to get on those topics. But as we do in the OT Unleashed podcast, we're going to start off with a couple little segments that will lead us into those conversations. So before we get there, I'd like to know what your origin stories are. So you guys are both OTs. You've been in the field for a minute, and I want to hear about what that looks like. So maybe Allison, you can kind of start us off, kick us off. What happened that made you decide I want to be an occupational therapist?
Yes, I love this question, and it was actually the theme of my inaugural presidential address a couple of years ago. But I had a cousin that was like a baby sister. I was the oldest in our cousin generation. She was the youngest. She experienced a traumatic brain injury, and we were told that there wasn't really going to be much the doctors could do. And at that point, probably 30 years ago now, they still use the term vegetative. They told us she would live in a vegetative state forever, and that hit hard because
Yeah.
that's not how I wanted to spend life with my baby cousin. And they did offer opportunities as she woke up from her coma to participate in various therapies when she was in acute care, and then she went into inpatient rehab, and then she continued on an outpatient. And it was the occupational therapist that said, hey, Allison, this is what I need you to do. Robin's homework this week is that you guys are going to go to the park like you always do after church on Sunday. But I need you to let her lead the way. Can she still get you there? And then when she can't, I need you to tell words like, go right, go left. And I need you to tell me, is she able to follow that? And I fell in love, Eric. I said, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, not only is this the profession that gave me my cousin back, but everything, every intervention, every homework we did together was just based off of everything we did together before she experienced her TBI. And it was then I was 11, and I knew this was me for life.
Yeah. That's so cool. Like, I love to hear these because I do think that it has been, more than not, I feel like something happened that you got introduced to the profession, like for me, I was burned, like I was literally in a situation where I had to receive the profession to understand the profession, and I didn't get a definition about it. I got a firsthand recollection of like, this is what happens. And so it's so cool. Yeah. Awesome. All right. What about you, Karen? What do you have?
Oh, I love this question too. So I'm going to go back in time and be 20 years old.
Perfect.
I'm in college and getting my degree in psychology, preschool, primary ed. But I had a side gig. I was a leather crafts person. And so I'm
Wow.
in St. Louis, doing lots and lots of art shows. I was part of this art circuit, and I'm setting up my leather display, belts and game boards and
Yeah.
buckles and all that leather stuff. And I'm set up next to a potter, and her work is beautiful. So I get everything set up and I walk over, and she's sitting there with an anatomy book and she's studying. And I said, you're a potter. Why are you looking at anatomy? And she said, I'm going to become an occupational therapist. Of course, I said, what is it?
Sure.
And
Sure.
she explained it. And she said, after the show, I need to go dissect my cadaver. Would you like to join me? And I said, of
Whoa.
course. And so we went to the cadaver lab. I got to observe her. And by the time I finished, I said, this is going to blend everything together that I'm interested in. Science, working with people, the creative aspect of it. And I became determined to become an occupational therapist.
Wow, that's so crazy. How random. I don't think you could just willy-nilly invite
No,
somebody to a cadaver lab these days. But
this
man,
was a long
wow.
time ago.
No,
Wow.
but maybe we're thinking about ways to recruit new students. Maybe
Mhm.
this is a campaign we should try again.
Yes.
Hey, just join me in the cadaver lab. I'll tell you all about it.
Could
I'm just going to
be.
be in the corner crafting and stitching something, but you go ahead and play around with that, that cadaver up there. I
Well,
have
I
some
want to
funny
do,
cadaver stories, but
you
we'll
do.
we'll save those for another time.
Uh, I always like doing a
Wow.
shout out to Michelle Manning, and her name now is Michelle Iserman. And thank you for
Yeah.
introducing me to occupational therapy.
Yeah. My OT, her name was also it was Michelle. Um, wow, I can't even think of her last name, but she was a young lieutenant, and I remember just like thinking like she meant the world to me in my recovery. And then
Oh,
later on, I was like Captain Johnson, and I was like, I gotta find this young woman, and I found her in the army, and I just was like, you're the reason I became an OT. Like you did so much for me, and she was just like jaw
oh.
dropped, So that's really cool. I love a good origin story. So now you guys have done so much in our profession. You have, huge CVs that we could go on about. And, as OTs, there are these moments that really kind of hit us, like where I think I did something important, and I think maybe when I am tenured like you guys in this profession that I might look back and say there was this one thing that I did that I'm really proud of, and maybe it's video games, maybe it's military, whatever. But you guys, what would you say that your, for lack of a better term, crowning achievement would be the thing that you're so proud of, and that could be maybe an interaction with a patient, like a big breakthrough, something that you were so proud of that you that you look back and think about, like, man, I'm so proud of that. So, Karen, why don't you start us off with this one?
Sure. I love being temporal. I'm going to go back to 1998. I think, Allison, that was around the time you were um, becoming an occupational therapist, right?
Yes.
Something around that time. And Eric, you and I have been friends for a long time, so I'm not going to
Yeah,
date you.
that's okay.
So just picture driving your two teenage children to school, and they've got all their backpack and their saxophone and their equipment. They just didn't want to go on the bus that day. We pulled to the corner where their bus stop is, and I looked to make sure I know where everybody is at the bus stop. And kids are fooling around, you know, and one kid taps another kid, not very hard, and his backpack is so heavy that he falls back, and
Oh
he
my
looks
gosh.
like a turtle, a turtle with a
Yeah,
shell. And I
yeah.
turned around in the car and I said to my children, how heavy is your backpack? And I'll remember this forever. My son is now turning 40. He did the loser sign in the mirror to say, okay, mom, how could you not know that my backpack was so heavy? And that triggered me in my role at AOTA at the time, saying, this is a topic we need to address. And so I thought about what is the major backpack company, and might they be interested in working with AOTA on an initiative for children's health. Time passes, I contacted LL Bean. Again, time passes. They said, come on up to Freeport, and I met with them. And I remember being in the room with many of their designers and marketers and all of that. And one person saying to me, why should we go with occupational therapy when we've been approached by so many other companies to work with regarding backpack safety? Again, this is in the
90s.
1998.
Yeah.
And yeah, and before I could open up my mouth to say something, the person next to me said, I know. This is somebody at LL Being. He said, occupational therapy practitioners are in all schools in the United States. They understand child development, and they're the right people for us to go with. And I turned and I said, how do you know so much about occupational therapy? And he said, I dated an occupational therapist.
That's amazing.
LL Bean, they shook their heads and they said yes. And so our National Backpack Awareness Day started in a collaboration with LL Bean. And we soon realized that we wanted to be independent of any backpack company. And we continued on our own. And the National School Backpack Awareness Day is international now. We hold it on October 27th, which is World Occupational Therapy Day. But I think what's most important as we think about it is that we've really made a difference in the health of children and adults as well, because they wear backpacks too. And
Yeah.
this is the longest running public health initiative in occupational therapy ever. And it's something to be
Amazing.
proud of. And I just have to say, I'm glad my children asked me to drive them to school that day.
You know, it's interesting that you talk about this because up until 2 weeks ago, I've driven my kids to school until they are old enough to drive, and I have two left that are in high school, and Clementine just now got a car, so now she's independent. But up to 2 weeks ago, she didn't have a car, and their backpacks are still so heavy, and there's actually a lot of criteria on what type of backpacks you're allowed to wear in schools these days. It's not like you can
Yes.
do a lot of choosing. There are some, like specific measurements and everything. And, she's got it all drooped, slagging back. And I was like, no, you need to wear it high. You need to do this. I'm being very OT with her. And I was like,
All
did you
right,
know
Eric.
that we have a Backpack Awareness Day? And a funny story about Backpack Awareness Day is I was actually making an OT rap, which I'll put out someday. But one of the lines in it is, like Karen Jacobs does backpacks. That's
Oh, wow, Eric.
a line in the song, in the rap.
And you never told me about this, Eric.
Well, it was gonna be a surprise, but I needed two other guys to rap with me, so like it was gonna be like a Beastie Boys cover,
Oh,
and it was about OT and then stuff. So anyway, but that's awesome, and of course I know a lot of people listening are familiar with Backpack Awareness Day, and I do think that it's something that you absolutely should be proud of, and that will,
thank you.
until everything is digital, it's going to be a problem, so like OTs out there, it's always a great opportunity to be able to talk about the profession. It's a great opportunity, again, with World OT Day or OT month in April, doing kind of a backpack awareness type of booths or stands, or talking at colleges or high schools, elementary schools. It's always such a really cool opportunity to be able to do that. And of course, that would be your crowning achievement. So, all right, well, Allison, what do you got? So, Karen's got her
Well,
backpacks. What do you got, Allison?
well, Eric, I think if I could be number two Beastie Boy in your group, that would be
Oh,
my
I'm in.
crowning achievement. I'm okay. Great, great. There it
You're
is.
there.
I'll get to
You
be your
there. If
number two
you're
Beastie Boy.
you just have to dance. You have to do some slick moves, and you wrap it. So
Beatbox a little. I can
I'm fine
beatbox
with
a
that.
little.
I'm there. I'm
Okay.
there. Yeah,
Okay.
I love it. I
Great.
love it.
Um, yeah, so I mean, and just one more thing about backpack awareness, that I had this great conversation recently with a student, that an international student from Saudi Arabia, and he was telling me about how in Saudi Arabia they learn backpack awareness in their OT program. And he said, and it's really funny because in our country, children don't bring backpacks, but we still learn about it because
Wow.
it's
That's
this just general incredible initiative
Yeah.
recognized in OT. And so it definitely is a legacy.
Wow. Cool.
I think that my crowning achievement really has to be Capable Kids, my private practice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, when we opened, over 10 years ago, I just remember my husband saying, I had asked him to quit his job so that he could really focus full attention on the clinic. And we were in a rural county. And I remember our first month open, he said, well, we had 12 visits this month. And I was like, 12 patients? And he was like, no, 12 visits. And it was all from the same child. He just happened to need 3 services.
Wow. Wow.
And and so I look back at that moment and I think like, wow, I didn't know what I was doing or where I was going, and neither did he. But now 10 years later, I think the crowning achievement is that, you know, not just how many that we have, 400, 500 kids that come through in a week, that we have contracts with
Wow.
school districts, that we have 2 locations, but really the idea is that we have generated a practice that continues to be a member of our community. So
Cool.
the clinicians that come and work there are clinicians who are members of the community. The
Yeah.
clients are the same individuals that we're going to church with on Sunday or seeing at the restaurant on Friday night. That there's this just sense of not, we didn't create a place, we created an entity that is a
Mm.
member of the community. And I think that that's probably my biggest, most exciting achievement. I think the other piece of just watching my clinicians um, exceed anything I had ever thought of or built, to watch them blossom into these incredible clinicians that that have courage, they take chances, they take risks, and they build wellness in a way that I would have never thought of.
Yeah.
It's amazing to be a part of that.
Wow. Well, it's crazy to think like you go from, oh, I don't know if this is viable. This is like, this is going to be tough if this is what our life is going to be, to all of a sudden it's like you have staff. Like when people talk about entrepreneurial, endeavors, and then you go from like it was just me and I just did this and I had my husband and that was it. And then now it's like we couldn't operate without, you know, at least 10 to 20 people because this person does this person does this. Like that's a feat all in itself, It's so crazy to um think about that growth. And when was that? How many years did that take?
So it was really interesting. It was about, like, we had ups and downs, but it was the 7th year when we like hit the ground running and like have not really looked back. And it's interesting. So if you know much about the Bible, there's oftentimes that they talk about 7 years of famine
Yeah,
to 7 years
yeah,
then
wow.
of
Yeah.
growth. And it was
Yeah,
like so exciting that 7th year to see this like explosion. And I have to give my shout out. The We have many incredible staff, but Alyssa Francis, who is our assistant director of clinical services, so she is an occupational therapist. Her brilliance, her dedication. I mean, she is really, she's definitely part of the secret sauce, I will
yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah. She's the ingredient that makes the cake. Yeah, that's so cool. And so you guys have done, I mean, obviously I'm asking for like one, piece of your existence as OTs, and we could certainly look at, 1,000 other things. But one of the things that I really wanted to spend some time with today was the future of our profession, well, not just our profession, but all kinds of stuff. And you both have kind of done a deep dive into artificial intelligence, and I know that um, I have as well. It helps me with so many different things, and I know that there's a lot of people that are very anxious about it because they feel that it might be cheating or unethical. And so I wanted to give you guys some space to talk a little bit about that. What are some, initiatives that you think might be really great for the profession, some things that you might be concerned about? Let's open up this can of AI and see where it takes us. So tell me, what do you, where did it, well, first of all, where did you guys first kind of see like the potential and where it started to come from for you guys?
So I'd be happy to start. I want to start off with saying the time is now
It is. It
for
is.
occupational therapy practitioners and students to become AI literate and also look at all the opportunities. So for me, it started a while ago at Boston University. I'm the Associate Dean of Digital Learning and Innovation. So I've been sort of following artificial intelligence, and I think all of us, it became more mainstreamed as a term with Gen AI. However, that's a teeny bit of what AI is about. And in fact, I think most people don't realize they have been using AI when they say, "Hey Siri,"
Yeah.
or "Alexa." So we've been, and oh my God,
I know your phone just hit it. Yep.
my phone was asking me a question. Um, but it existed already. So one of the things that became really important for me was to help our college, the faculty in particular at the start, to become more AI literate. We got a grant. We created some training in artificial intelligence. We're releasing it to the students and to the faculty. So that became one thing that was important, and creating a safe space for discussion, because not everybody is embracing it. And also having some guidelines that we could use in education on responsible and ethical use.
Yeah.
But that's just a teeny part. And so Allison and I, our paths have crossed because I know her clinic. Her clinic is one of the clinical spaces where I'm conducting research. So I'm in the throes of research with a company called Coro AI, and they have, it's an app that has been designed for occupational therapy practitioners
Awesome.
by occupational therapy practitioners. So right at ground level. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, one role that I want to do a shout out and a call to action is for our profession to be at the grassroots of the design of artificial intelligence. So the algorithms, we can work with data science, computer science, and make sure that our skills, our knowledge, our distinct value is built into that. And so let Allison share her thoughts, because we both are, we hope, starting a revolution with AI and occupational therapy, and we want everyone to join on board. And then I'll tell a little bit more about my experience with Coro AI and the research we're doing.
That's great.
Yeah. So Eric, funny, you are actually one of my influences in taking the deep dive into AI.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's crazy. You're
so,
welcome.
thank you. Yes. So, so I had long known about your incredible work in gaming and whatnot. And I had long known that it really emerged from your participation in essentially like a call competition. Like,
Yeah.
hey, who's out there doing some stuff from Microsoft, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you were like, hey, I am, and I've got this team that's doing it with me, and let's just put in for this competition. And what you showed me was that we are a secret often, but that if
Yeah.
we just take the courage and we show it, we apply to the competition, we try it out in our clinics. That's how people then know who we are, and no one ever questions if occupational therapy should be in the team. They just don't know what they don't know until
Right.
they know it.
Mhm.
And really, so your story was one that really was influencing me to say, where are we not known well enough? But I think that we
Yeah.
could contribute. And so the pandemic really did reveal a tremendous amount about both the resilience of clinicians and what we were able to do at Capable Kids, but it also showed me a fatigue that I myself had never experienced, and further saddened me to see my clinicians also experiencing. And
Yeah.
I knew there had to be something. There had to be something that protected us, but still needed us. And
Yeah.
so I have a brother who is like a software engineer, and
Awesome.
we don't have many things that we talk about in common. But as I was sharing this, he was like, he had thrown out AI, and I thought I should deep dive into it. And when you look into it, AI has been with us since actually the 1950s.
Mhm.
Hmm.
This is not something to be fearful of because it just emerged now. Is the technology advancing and the way that we can utilize it, the algorithms, the development of it? Absolutely. But this is something that scientists have been investing a tremendous amount of energy, effort, and time into investigating since the 1950s. And
Wow.
so why not take that chance, and then having Karen invite us to be part of the clinic that could be in this, and have to get my clinicians to want to engage. So I
Yeah.
said, hey, I want you all to see it. So we were shown the tool and the Coro AI app and technique, and my clinician said, "You're foolish if you say no to this. We love it, and
Yeah.
this is exactly what is going to help us."
So, let me pause you real quick. Allison, I was really struck by your presidential address this year at AOTA.
Mhm.
I had been, and actually, I think we talked about this. We've had dinners together and talked about, our profession um, and AOTA itself. And one of the things that I was so impressed with was your decision to say, I'm not going to talk about traditional OT right now. I'm going to go and travel the United States and the world, whatever, and look at all these really small pockets of things that where people made a leap of faith to try to embed OT into their world. Me and gaming. I know you visited Caitlin at Microsoft, and I know that there was a lot of play stuff, a lot of all kinds of stuff. Yeah, BU grad. Yeah, I see
Yeah.
that, Karen. But I was so impressed that you went that direction because there's another OT who will be on at some point named Ingrid Knax, and she does
Mm.
playground, a lot of
Yeah.
accessibility stuff, and she and I are very close, tight friends. And we are actually for this year we're going to be submitting a proposal for entrepreneurship in the future and stuff like that. But but I was so like impressed by like how you were thinking that my message needs to be way forward than what our current kind of status is. And AI is a big thing. And actually, one thing that you guys don't know is I've already presented at the American Society of Hand Therapy on artificial intelligence. We talked about protocols, generated protocols and stuff. I've used it quite a bit in academia as far as helping me design advanced case studies, helping me design syllabi, helping me
Mhm.
organize my thoughts for even just what my course will look like. I can actually, like for my tech class, I said, design me a 16-week schedule using Cook and Polger's assistive technology, to, use as a structure, and boom, right there. And it was amazing,
So Eric,
so
what you're sharing is um, how we can use Gen AI in
yes,
particular as a
right,
thought
right. And I
as
know
a
you
thought
guys are,
partner.
yeah, and I want to know like
But
how
that
do
but
you,
that's okay.
yeah,
That's
sure.
okay. And I just want to share, we have used, if you know prompt engineering, and that's very key. How do you
Sure.
write the prompts?
Yeah.
And ask the right questions and then add more prompts. You can get some really good evidence-based information, but you have to check everything that you get, and that's
That's what our
really
session was on.
important.
It was on false citations in hand therapy protocols.
Hallucinations.
Yeah, it was completely
Hallucinations. Yeah.
garbage. I mean, we found like 75%. We did a study on 20 hand therapy protocols, and they, works cited, and we found I want to say it was like 77% of them were false citations, or at least, or either fictitious citations or incorrectly cited. And so yeah, you do have to do your homework. But I want to know, like, so Karen, you mentioned that you teamed up with Allison in her clinic to do
Mhm.
work in a clinical environment. What does that look like? How uh,
Sure.
help me understand that better. How does that help somebody in a clinical space?
Sure. Thanks for asking. And we're at two clinical sites. We're at Allison's Capable Kids in Pennsylvania, and we're also at Gallant Therapy Services in Maine. So I do want to acknowledge
Cool.
Ryan Gallant too. So it's a feasibility study. It's a randomized control trial. It's small numbers because it's a pilot. And so what we have are children ages 5 through 12 who have developmental challenges. And, we have institutional review board approval to recruit children to be part of this. So we have a control and experimental group. So the experimental group works with Allison's wonderful occupational therapy practitioners, another shout out. So there's two of them participating in the study. We've asked them to use some of our traditional occupational therapy assessment instruments that we use in pediatrics. So we have some baseline data. And then we've provided training on how to use the Coro AI app. And we've asked them to use the app, which has computer vision. So it's actually seeing the child and recording objective data on the child and skills that they can do. And using Coro at the beginning of their regular occupational therapy session for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then their regular occupational therapy session. What we've asked is for the Coro AI gaming experience app to be used at home. And so it's paired with the parent's mobile device, and we encourage the child to keep using the missions. They're astronauts, and then there's Alfie, that's a flower, and all the stories are going to Mars. And Eric, you would love this. We'll have to
Oh
show
man.
you that.
Yes.
And the children are inspired and motivated to do their what we're calling homework, where if we look at our traditional occupational therapy that we do with the children in pediatrics, we meet with them once a week also. And then we ask them to do their homework, whatever it is. We're finding that the homework aspect is not really getting done. Maybe it's motivation, maybe there's no one there reminding them. And with the Coro app, the therapist is getting, or the occupational therapy practitioner is getting feedback. So we can say, okay, you did your mission and look at the skills you really are developing. So we are having not only that 1 hour of occupational therapy each week, but we're having reinforcement of what we have
Yeah.
for skill development at home.
Yeah, that's
And then
huge.
it's huge.
So
And we're
tell me,
already getting feedback.
tell me,
It's very
so
positive.
Allison, so you guys have been working with us in your clinic, correct? And
Mhm.
the AI sees the client, correct?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's interpreting data based on, is it biofeedback? Is it looking at the engagement itself? Like what is it receiving from that kid?
So it's really incredible. So it utilizes the camera that is inside the smartphone or the
Yeah.
iPad or whatnot. And it has, I believe, 190 sensors that are on the child's body and over 200 sensors on the child's face. And the child wears nothing. All of these sensors exist coming through the camera. And what
That's
happens is
crazy.
it gives us, yeah,
It's
nothing.
amazing, Eric, and you know, we would love to show some of that another time
Yeah,
to you.
it's
Is it possible that we could do some screenshots on this? Am I allowed to do that yet?
Yeah,
Or I'd love it
yeah,
if you
yeah,
could
yeah.
send me a couple of
We can
screenshots
follow
just so
up.
I could pop it on there. That'd be amazing. Yeah. Go on.
Well, we
Sorry,
have
go
a
ahead.
video that we have a
Yes,
video we
that
could
too.
send to you to
yeah.
put on, and I think that would, you know, tell the story really
Yeah.
well.
So
Yeah.
it so what it does is it gives you some really incredible information that we can't see and don't really have great ways of measuring
Yeah.
other than using like our clinical judgment. So one of the things it tells us is inhibition. So how often is the child dissociating the movement? Are they utilizing just their arm to climb up? Or are they actually turning their whole body?
Oh, wow.
So it's telling me how often the child inhibits movement. It gives me scores related to movement dissociation. It gives me scores related to movement accuracy. And it gives me scores related to amount of effort produced by each body part. So where their movement accuracy of climbing like this might be really high, say it's at 80%, and I'm thinking, what is that? What's the
Missing.
20% that's off? Well,
Yeah.
then it'll tell me, but the right upper extremity is actually doing it 96% of the time, and the left upper extremity is only doing it 22% of the time.
Gotcha.
So now I know the child knows how to
It's
do the movement
compensating. Yeah.
with their right arm,
Mhm.
but they're not doing it with their left arm. So now I've got to focus on, and it'll tell me, it gives me all kinds of indicators related to some of the biofeedback measures too.
Sure.
So it can tell you things like, um, you know, uh, when the child is attentive versus when the child is inattentive. And so it really does, it has transformed how we are able to say, this is what we need to focus on, or this is what we need to do next.
You know, this is really cool because it also gives you very objective pieces of information that you can act on. Like one of the things that's really tough, and when I was working in brain injury, MTBI cognition in Afghanistan, you know, we could only go off of information based on patient report. You know, like I have a headache, I have photophobia, I am struggling with irritability, and I'm having issues with problem solving, you know, and I remember thinking, like, I wish I could have some kind of objective piece of information that I can show them that they're getting better. You know, like I always love using
Sure.
information to be able to say, look, this is actually working. And whenever I would do a lot of my treatment, it would be based on meditation and visualization, stuff like that. And it's like, all this hocus pocus doesn't work. And I was like, but look, your body is physically doing something different right now. So this is really cool because the potential to show that, hey, your child is improving. We went from 20 something percent of use to now 47%.
Yeah,
And we're making some like real change.
So Eric, the objective data, I think, is critical, and it's something
Yeah.
that is a game changer in occupational therapy. But what also is remarkable with the Coro AI app is that it generates reports for us.
Yeah.
And we know
Of course.
how challenging it can be to find time to write those notes,
Yeah.
to help with the full assessment documentation we need. So when Allison was talking about burnout and fatigue,
It's
it's
all about
taking
documentation.
it's right, but it's taking away some of the pressure on us. And
Sure.
as Allison and has, it's enriching what we're doing in
Yeah.
occupational therapy. It will never replace us,
Yeah.
and we
Sure. Of
don't
course not.
want that.
Yeah.
We want it to be a partner with us.
So does it speak, so tell me how it would speak to an electronic medical record. So you're getting some objective data, things that you don't necessarily have to write right now. You know, like these things are happening, and can I just embed it into there? Like, how are you guys doing that, Allison? Like when you're doing your documentation?
so you can access it as a Word doc or a PDF,
Mhm.
and
Cool.
then we just attach the PDF to the part of our EMR that we want it to be in. And, you know, one of the things that my clinicians have pointed out that I think is like just extraordinary is the idea that it's summer, right? So we have a lot of times we're covering each other's caseloads as we're off on vacation, you know. And the thing is that we can all read and see what we're doing and what we're measuring. But again, when you look at things like inhibition, how I'm measuring inhibition versus how Alyssa's measuring inhibition, it might be slightly off. And so you're not really comparing apples to apples, right?
Yeah.
And so then you have a little bit of discrepancy in documentation whenever there's somebody else taking over for the day or even moving forward. And so this gives us the opportunity that there is at least a component of the documentation that is comparing apples to apples, because it's not my way of measuring inhibition or Alyssa's way of measuring inhibition. It is the AI technology's way. And so it really does provide this opportunity for true consistency in how we are measuring some very objective data marks.
So how accurate are we? Did you say this was a comparison study?
Yeah,
Karen?
it's a randomized control. So we're looking at a whole group of children who are in the controlled group getting traditional occupational therapy and having homework. I wanted to just mention one of the things that we recommended to the company and what they're doing, because it's a relatively new company. We're not going to, we want fidelity in the use of the app. And so there's a certification process to be able to use it. And Allison is teaching that, and I'm complimenting her as well. And we just kicked it off last week. So any occupational therapy practitioners who are interested, you know, perhaps we can give the link to learning more about how to sign up.
Right there.
Yeah, for the certificate. Okay, right there.
Okay, so that's cool.
Eric,
so yeah.
So one of the things one of the most difficult things we had with the recruitment for the randomized control trial was at our clinic, and I believe that Ryan had shared this as well. First, I want to say that both at Ryan's clinic and at mine, this is being done with both occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants, because that's how OT happens. And so we can't just test this with one group of our professionals. We have to test across our professional groups. And so we do have it working within both areas. But then we actually had a number of people we recruited that dropped out when they found out they weren't going to when they were in the control group and weren't. We only signed up because we really wanted to try this, which for me was a true telling of where our consumer base is at. You know, I live in an area, we actually have a very large Amish population. Technology has a very interesting conversation surrounding it in my community. And it's not always one that's eager to jump in on some of the newer pieces. But I mean, the families are excited, they're eager. And when they found out they were control and not experiment, they were like, wait, never mind. We literally had to transform the protocol so that our control groups could have access to the AI app after the completion of the study in order to keep as many control that we needed.
Yeah. Okay. And the study goes for about 15 weeks. So we're still collecting data. And
this is so gonna. I have so many thoughts, like, you know, like spinal cord injury, stroke, you know, like all these things like are going into my head. Let me ask you this. So can you use it for, you talked about occupational therapy assistants. So that leads me to think that there's also, you can use it therapeutically as a treatment method as well. So it's not just an evaluation where you say, okay, these are all the things that are not happening or happening, but you can actually use it as a therapeutic medium. So how do you use it for therapy? Does that make sense?
So it's gaming, Eric. What children love to do,
that's right. You did mention that. Yeah.
And so they have missions that they go on. There's an astronaut, and there's different
That's right.
activities that
That's
they
right.
do. So that's,
Well, do
you
they
know,
do this in real time out in their environment? Do they do
they
it on the phone?
they're seeing themselves. They become the astronaut, Eric.
Okay, this is so cool. All
This
right.
is,
I love
they're
it.
climbing and they're getting up and they're winning a new helmet.
This is
Eric,
You know,
amazing.
we we have kids that this is 10 minutes of their weekly in school OT session,
mhm.
right? So
They're
this is it actually it's great to be used during evaluation, but it's actually really meant to be part of your everyday treatment and tracking and being able to see those even minute changes. So
yeah.
we've done things like we have a school, some of our clinicians in the schools that use it, and they say, is there a difference in the scores that they get when we use it in the morning treatment versus the afternoon treatment, right? Like, is there a difference in their scores at school versus at the clinic when they're using it, right? You can even
Yeah.
start to think about, oh my goodness, inhibition scores are lower in the morning. Oh, now as the OT practitioner, I need to think about what are some strategies I need to put in place to reduce or improve inhibition in the morning? How do I recreate that morning routine? Because
Yeah.
this is showing me that they're great in the afternoon, or this is showing me that they're great in the clinic, but terrible at home with it,
Yeah.
So, what do we have to change in the home environment? And so but the other piece that I love is that it has an astronaut that'll pop up on the screen. So there's a lot of times that we recommend activities for children to do at home to develop skills, but look, there's a reason that we all went through an occupational therapy training program, right? There's skill in what we're doing. And so our parents always correcting when a child is, accommodating or moving. No, or look at caregivers when, working with individuals that have had stroke. Are they always able to see that maybe they're reinforcing a negative movement pattern, right? No, but this does. And so the second my child is no longer doing the move in a way that is corrective and will create developmental gains, this astronaut comes on and says, hey, let's try again. Okay, let's do it together again, and brings them back. So we are constantly reinforcing the right movement patterns versus getting stuck in a wrong movement pattern that, because of the accommodation, looks like it can succeed at the task.
Okay, I'm going to give you some hard questions to answer right now. Have you had
Okay.
children that got bored with it? And let me
At this,
before you answer, the reason why I'm saying is because I spend a lot of time in gaming, therapeutic gaming, right? And one of the things that Caitlin and I talk about quite a bit is that there's a lot of organizations that gamify their therapy approaches, which is great, but we also have seen that a lot of therapeutic approaches or therapeutic gaming approaches are like kind of it loses any kind of excitement. The reason why some games are better than others is because you constantly want to play them, and so and I know we're at the very beginning, but I was curious, like, have you seen students like, this is cool, but I'm over it, or anything like that? Have you found that at all? Has that happened?
so Eric, I can give you some, qualitative feedback from the study.
Oh, that would be great.
Um,
I would love that.
yeah, and we're getting lots and lots of data. What I've gotten for feedback about the children is that they haven't gotten bored
Good,
because
good.
there's so many levels and there's so many games,
Yeah, that's great. And
and so
that's
they
super
become
important.
and there's you get different helmets and you move up the ranks. Um,
Oh,
but
you're
what I
checking all the
love
right
about
boxes. I thought I was giving you a
I
hard
know,
question, and I thought I was going to know the answer, but
yeah,
Caitlin would have like
no,
And
no.
scolded me for not asking the question, so I had to.
Yeah.
That's
And what I
awesome.
love
That's
about
great.
this, and what I love about this company is that they want this feedback. And so they want to hear what the children are thinking about using it, what the therapists are thinking about it. And they will incorporate that feedback into, the next version of a game or the
Yeah,
next version of Coro AI. So
yeah,
it's something that they need occupational therapy practitioners' feedback.
that's
so
great.
Um,
Eric, yeah, what's really cool about this, and one of the reasons I think kids aren't getting bored, or well, there's a multitude of factors. One is that the games are brief in nature. It's not, you know, it might take
Perfect.
you a minute and a half, 2 minutes to get through that level. But then
Perfect.
also you do you reach a level of physical fatigue with it,
Oh,
because
good.
you're doing, and so you can't, it's not often that you can play longer than like 15 minutes. And so they're never getting that satiation of, oh, I walked away and I played 3 hours of it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's always a little, they're actually having to stop before their cognitive desire to stop is. But the other thing is you, yes, you download an app for this, the Coro AI app, but it's actually a platform. And so everything is existing in the platform, in which case you are never actually going to reach having played all the games,
right.
because for every week that you've played 5 games, the company has worked with and developed with occupational therapy professionals 10 more games that came on.
That's awesome.
And on top of that, the feedback that they receive then gets incorporated into, do we keep this challenge? Do we get rid of it? Do we have to modify this
Yeah,
challenge? So at the end of every challenge, a child does put how they feel after it. If they've got
yeah.
a challenge where there's a lot of middle to frowns, then they're going to look at how they need to either get rid of it or revamp it.
I'm so excited about this, and I love that it just so happens to have this gaming component. I can't wait to see the data. I can't wait to see this published. How can other OTs at this point in time get involved? Is there anything that you're looking for that I can help push for you guys? Are we just like, let's wait, and then we're going to
No,
talk
no,
about it?
no. No, no, I want to give the Coro AI website there. It's, again, this is
Okay.
all about occupational therapy.
Yeah.
It's ot.korro.ai. And
Okay.
what we'd like to happen is that occupational therapy practitioners sign up to get certified. We want
Okay.
to build this community of practice, and Allison and I next week have a blog that we're starting. You may recall OT for OT, Eric.
Oh yeah, I have a
That's
gaming channel, OT for OT.
yeah.
So
Well, I have to tell you, I don't know if you know, I'm one of the founders of that.
yeah, really interesting. It still
Yeah,
goes.
of
Jill.
OT for OT.
Yeah, all those
Yeah.
cats. Yeah, it's a great crew. I think Anita
So
Hamilton and all them.
well,
Yeah,
Anita and
yeah,
Sue and Angela and
yeah,
Marilee
yeah,
and Sarah, we all started that.
yeah.
And we're going to have a community of practice, an OT for OT site on AI as well. So there's going to be different ways of people getting involved. We just want involvement, a call to action that occupational therapy practitioners and students get involved.
Okay.
And we want to
How?
hear from you.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's ot.coro.ai, and we'll have the website on here. You guys we'll have it linked for y'all. And what about academia? Like, could this be something I incorporate in my like tech class or teaching or some
Yes.
kind of way that I can show, like as a treatment I'm saying a lot of words. You guys go ahead.
Yeah, no, Eric, of course. And, we can be in touch with having a demo for your class. I'm arranging for a demo at University of Toronto.
Cool.
Rosalie Wang is an expert, and Allison was at the CAOT conference when they had a lot of discussion this year about AI. And I reached out to a few of those individuals to find out what they're doing. We need to talk to each other. We
Yeah.
need to collaborate with each other. There's so much that we can do right now. That is key.
Yeah.
We can't wait.
Yeah, and I've told people
Eric,
to go ahead. Yeah.
the piece that I see is that the story that occupational therapy should be primary care is it's over 100 years old. We should be primary care, right? We know the person, and we walk alongside the person. We don't give directives or treatments
Right.
to, right? And that's an over 100-year story. To me, AI is the catapult that finally puts us there, that
Yeah.
finally makes us primary care. And I get excited and anxious because it's now. So this is what can move us to primary care, to be in the space that will truly recognize the type of health and wellness that everybody really wants to achieve. But at the same time, it's right now. And if we back off or we move too slow, we'll miss it. And I don't want to wait another 100 years
Mhm.
for something to help get us to where we're supposed to be.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
So
a really
join
great
us.
that's a great message. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, I am super excited. And you know what a lot of people don't realize is like AI is at its worst right now. Like it's only going to get, and it's good. It's like you got to realize like and I have this message with gaming all the time and technology. I was like, if you laugh at this, if you balk at this, and you don't potentially incorporate this, you're gonna figure out in about 20 years that you should have probably started this 20 years ago. Because
Absolutely.
almost 50. I'll be 50 in a couple years, and like when I'm 70, 80, it's gonna be all technology. I'm gonna be on my phone or have some chip that's gonna be interacting with humans. I'm not gonna be watching Prices Right and reading newspapers, which a lot of our clients do. So like embracing this stuff now is so important, and AI can really empower us really to that next space. And Allison, what a great message as you're kind of doing your final swan song of your presidency, to be able to show that, you know, you don't want to stop here. It doesn't stop with an introduction. It stops when we have achieved and we have made it there. So, wow. Okay. So, any last thoughts? We do have to move on. Any last thoughts on AI that you guys want to share? We will link all that stuff. It'll be great, and
Thank
hopefully we
you.
get a lot of support and interaction, because I mean I know I'm gonna jump on there probably about 5 minutes after this call. So,
I know. I figured
actually,
you were already doing that, Eric.
actually, like I was looking
I
for it
know
on
you.
my phone during this, like, but I was spelling it wrong. So
I'll type
I'll
it
get
in the
it after.
chat for you, Eric.
Yeah, well, anyway, but okay, so let's move on to the next section. We have just a few more minutes, but I did want to give our quickfire queries from you guys. It's a fun section where we basically do some fun facts about you guys. And you don't have to, get crazy in detail on these, but we're going to go really quick, and I'm going to, go bounce back and forth, and we'll start with one person on one question. We'll start with the other person on the other question. So very first question we'll start with you, Allison. What's your favorite go-to coffee or drink order?
Oh, favorite go-to coffee or drink? Water. It's
Water.
very boring. Water.
Oh,
I love
hey,
water.
I water is
But if
my.
we're at a bar, but if we're at a
Oh
bar, it's
yeah.
another drink that you introduced me to, the bee's knees.
Oh my gosh, that was the most incredible drink.
The
Oh,
drink of my
that was
life.
so good. The bee's knees. I remember that. And I think I had probably about three too many, but so good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. All right, Karen, what about you?
Green tea. Green tea.
Green tea. Okay, good, good. All right. Number two, Karen, you start with this one. Which movie or TV show have that you've been watching recently that really left you wanting more?
Oh boy. A Gentleman in Moscow.
Oh,
It's a book that they made into a very short series, and I don't watch a lot of television at all,
yeah.
but it was released every Friday, and that was my reward.
Awesome, awesome. And what is that, like Netflix or one of
Yeah.
those streaming channels? Okay, awesome. All
Well,
right,
I think
Allison.
it was maybe Paramount.
Oh, okay.
Um, any true crime series, or I should say every true crime series. Documentary, movie, TV show, doesn't matter.
That's
Any
amazing.
and all.
Podcast.
Podcast doesn't matter.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. It's my wife. She is such a huge, also true crime person. So I'm right there with you. Okay. Speaking of books, what is the last book that you read?
Oh, the
Mm.
last book I read,
We'll go with Allison,
I
yeah.
just, so I'm always reading 15 books at a time. But the last one I finished was The Orphanage on the Lake. So good.
Okay, and what's the author?
I
It's
don't
okay.
know.
Orphanage on the
Like next
Lake.
Orphanage on the Lake. But
Okay.
I've also like what I'm also currently reading are some of Brene Brown's books to just
Mm,
remind myself how to develop resiliency and
yeah,
appreciate my imperfections. So those are some
yeah,
of the
yeah.
but the if a great beach read is Orphanage
Yeah,
on the Lake, you
yeah.
just won't figure it out till the
Awesome.
end.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, we got that one. All right, Karen, what about you? Last book.
Um, Kristen Hanna, The Women, and it's a fiction, and it's about women nurses during the
Mm,
Vietnam War. It
wow.
was amazing, and I highly recommend it.
Wow.
I'm
You
in
know,
two book clubs, and I love
I
reading.
love I love when people write about like fiction stories in a time that was, historical fiction. Did you guys ever read the book American Library in Paris?
No, but
Uh,
I'm putting it down.
that is, if you like that Vietnam one, Karen, read that one, American Library in Paris.
I wrote
Okay,
it down. Thank
number
you.
three, Karen, or number four, you start with this one. What is your go-to favorite OT model or frame of reference that you rely on?
Okay, well, PEO
Yeah,
would be number one.
yeah. Okay, and you?
Yeah. P Mine's PEO, but I really like the Kawa model too. So
Yeah.
going to back and forth between the two.
Yeah. It's funny, Michael Awama and I have this kind of running thing where I always follow him from keynote to keynote. He'll do it one year and then I'm like invited the next year. And so we've done this like probably four times where I was in Spain, he was in Spain, and then I was in Spain the next year. I actually just did one at Cleveland State, and he had done the year before. And actually, Karen, I think you've done that one as well, the Cleveland State. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. For just so you guys know, I'm actually a big fan of Renee Taylor's intentional relationship model. Like, I'm a huge IRM person right now. Like, I'm so on that kick. Okay. What is your favorite song at the moment? Do you guys jam out to anything that you love? Karen, we'll start with you.
Oh, oh boy.
Or you
Anything
can,
Lady Gaga.
oh, I love it. I love it.
I love Lady Gaga, and I've seen her twice. And I
Cool.
I have t-shirts and sweatshirts. She's an
Great.
amazing performer.
Awesome. All right, Allison.
Uh, m- Mine's anything Jack Johnson. He just gets me feeling comfortable and relaxed.
I love Jack
He gives
Johnson.
me the flip-flop vibes.
Yeah, I was actually in Hawaii at one point in time, and he was playing. He just impromptu like showed up to the hotel that I was at, and just down at the little bar, just plucked away with one of the locals, and it was so
Oh my
cool.
God,
His voice is so
that's
butter.
amazing.
Just oh yeah.
Oh, so good.
Um, okay, all right. I love Johnson. Okay, and he's got a great last name. Okay, the next one. What is one app on your phone that you cannot live without? Allison, you start.
Um, the ThreadUp app.
I love it.
I gotta know when they're having sales, and it is consignment, so I'm helping the earth.
I love it.
Um, and I love clothes. So the
I love it. Good,
Oh,
good.
Allison, you have to help me with that one because I have to say my go-to app now is the Coro AI app.
Of
I am
course it is. Yeah.
constantly on that, and any child that comes into my vicinity, I have them try it because
Yeah.
I'm just super
I
excited
love it.
about it.
I love it. That's awesome. All right, all right. Favorite dessert? Karen, you start.
Anything dark chocolate,
Dark
anything.
chocolate, anything. Yeah. Okay. And Allison?
cheesecake. I love
Cheesecake.
cheesecake.
Mm.
Okay. All right. I love that. I'm not a dark chocolate fan. Stella is, but I'm a milk chocolate guy, but I love a good cheesecake. Oh my gosh. Okay. Three more questions. What is your favorite self-care strategy? Allison, you start.
Is Allison first? Yeah.
Yeah, mine's reading a book. I just, nothing takes you to a place where you can get lost and kind of just distract yourself
Yeah.
but also still feel alive. So
Yeah.
mine's probably reading a book.
It's interesting about you saying that. I actually talk about gaming in this way because gaming is exactly what you're describing, except for you're involved with the story. You're playing the book with your hands, and so a lot of people, when they give me a hard time about gaming, I was like, you're literally just reading, but you're interacting with the story, and that's what's happening. So don't you're immersing yourself in that environment. So awesome. All right, Karen, what you got?
So I'm going to build on what Allison said. I listen to books on tape. So a bubble bath, listening to a book on tape.
Ah, I love that. I love it. All right, all right. Two more questions. What's one hobby you've always wanted to try but you haven't?
Oh my God, I tried it yesterday. Pickleball.
Oh, for the first time. I
And
haven't done it
For the
yet.
first time. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Was it
Yesterday
fun?
evening. It was beyond fun. I'm
I've
very
heard it's
excited.
just
So
so
now I just
easy
have
to
to
pick
find.
up. Yeah.
Well, I can't promise that it's easy to pick up, but I had a class for 90 minutes and it was fun,
Oh,
Eric. And it's something I want to do. My grandkids are all playing it, so I've got
ah,
to catch up to them.
I need to play. I need to play. Allison, what about you?
extreme skiing. Like I've always been a skier, but those people that like get dropped off on the top of a mountain from a
Wow.
helicopter, I want to do it.
Oh
I want
man,
to do
I
it.
would do that. Let's do it together. You know what? We can record our rap album and then jump off the top of on the top of a mountain. I love skiing.
That could be like that could be our cover of our album. Jumping off.
Us in the air with our like poles. Yeah. uh, jumping onto it. I actually have a funny story about extreme skiing. Kind of as I felt I grew up in Europe, and so I did a lot of skiing in Germany. And I came to the U.S. and I felt super cocky as a skier. I'd do jump and stuff, but I decided I was going to go on this like double black diamond Olympic jump,
Whoa.
and I French fried my skis straight down. I was like picking up speed and I launched off of this jump. And as soon as I got off of that jump, I realized that I probably wasn't smart. And I smashed so hard down that, horrific tumble and just like it was like so spectacular. It's on video somewhere. It was awful. But then I did it again because then I was like, I'm just going to slow down a little bit, before I hit the jump.
Wow.
Landed it the second time. But I love skiing. All right, all right, all right. We gotta wrap up. Okay, number 10. What is worse weather? Too hot or too cold?
Too hot.
Allison?
Yeah, I'd say too hot.
Yeah.
Cold,
I'm in
I can always
Texas.
put more on. Hot,
Yeah.
there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. We're in the 90s right now down in the deep heart of Texas. So, I feel you. So, all right. Well, you guys, we do need to wrap. I cannot thank you enough for your time.
Oh,
I am such huge fans of both of you, and I'm thrilled that you would spend so much time with me talking about a different type of artificial intelligence. And I'm so excited about downloading the Coro app and being able to, play around with it. I'm actually going to throw Fox in front of it and see what we get. So we'll see what we come up with. But thank you so much. Any last words or anything you want to say to our audience on your way out?
Eric, I just want to say, I've known you for so many years and you're an inspiration and you're always recreating yourself. And you
Thank you.
are such a role model for all of us. So thank you so much for having
Thank
us
you.
on your podcast.
Yeah. And I just want to say thank you, Eric, and to everybody and anybody listening, I want to say, like, jump on Eric's challenge and take that risk.
Yeah.
Try
Well,
the new work and submit it to
yeah.
a competition or to a CEO, but
Yeah.
get OT recognized.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much. And everybody, thank you for taking us through this whole podcast. And it's time now to say goodbye, my friends. I want to encourage you to keep exploring, keep dreaming, and continue to unleash the extraordinary in the ordinary. And thank you for joining us on the OT Unleashed podcast, where we want to always encourage you to engage, to cultivate, and to unleash. Have a great day. Peace.